to the breakdown, brought to you by Paintball Access in association with Paintball Nation. Also like to send a big shout out to our sponsors, GI Sports, Planet, Dye, and Key. So the year is done. 2014 PSP season is in the books, and it has been an insane season. I'm Matty Marshall alongside Ryan Greenspan and Todd Martinez. So now that the season is done, it's time to break down the top teams in the PSP. So today we're going to be going through teams 1 through 5, and coming in at 5th is San Diego Dynasty. Ryan, you guys had a kind of a topsy-turvy year. It was very interesting. You know, early on, you guys started out pretty well, 4th in the first event. You won the second event, and then things kind of went a little sour after that. Right. Chicago started great in the first part of the tournament. You guys won your first 2 games to Chicago, but then after that first day of Chicago, it was kind of a downhill slope for the next 2 events, or the second half of the third event, and then the 4th event was kind of really bad for you guys. And then heading into World Cup, but man, you know, that final game that you guys, so you guys went into World Cup, and then you made it all the way to the finals. In the Challengers Division, you played against Los Angeles Infamous, and you guys played one of the most historic and amazing games that I've ever seen. Well, kind of give me a little bit of your thoughts about your season.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that. Is it seems like all of our matches against Infamous have, every time that I talk to you after an event, you're like, that was the craziest game I've ever seen in my life. It's going to go down in history. Now, this one obviously was, you know, again, we topped all the rest of the matches before that.
I would say, Todd, that was one of the crazy, seriously, all kidding aside, how intense was that last match?
Well, we talked about beforehand, you know, just for, you know, lighting and film purposes, make sure that we get that Dynasty Infamous game before or after, so that we can get the Champions Finals done first, right? For better lighting. And, you know, I am so happy that the tournament ended the way it did, because that Dynasty Infamous game was so exciting to watch. I was so just on the edge of my seat watching everything unfold. And, you know, you got to give Art Chaos their due, you know, for winning the Champions Final. But that Challengers Final was so much fun to watch. And that was one of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, seriously, that was definitely one of the best games that I've literally ever seen. We were talking about a game that was back and forth the entire time. It went to an overtime period, and then and the whole way was kind of rather, you know, on the edge of your seat, controversial penalties, and then through the overtime period, and then goes to one-on-ones, and then played the longest one-on-one set that we've ever seen. And it was just, as a paintball fan, you know, we played for years, but still, even though that of all the games that I've ever been a part of or have seen, that was, I think, arguably one of the greatest paintball games that's ever been played. And I'm not just saying that to hype it up. It was that intense. It was that crazy to watch, especially when you were there live. And anyone that watched it live could definitely agree. And also, you know, you don't have to take our word for it. Definitely go and check it out online. You can go to PB Nation's channel and watch it on YouTube. It was an incredible, incredible scene as a paintball player to watch that. And there's a new feature we're going to be adding here to the breakdowns. It's going to be called Breakdown Tactics, in which we will be kind of breaking down different elements of specific matches to kind of get a look behind what's going on in those specific points. So, you know, so basically at this particular time right now, Ryan, in that game, it was 5-4. You were playing Infamous. The World Cup Challengers Championship is on the line. They have about 1 minute and 45 seconds to go to try to tie it up, and you guys are breaking out. Talk me through this.
And actually, they're starting with 4 guys. They had gotten a penalty. I believe Zach Wake was in the box. So we're playing 5-on-4. We have the advantage. We have the body advantage. We have the point advantage, and time is on our side. So right now, what you can see on your screen is...
so that's you guys right there.
This is us
highlighted right now.
This is us highlighted right now, breaking out. I'm in the corner side. Kyle Spica's breaking out under there. Oliver, we haven't sent him going up the center.
So not an audible. You had decided to send Oliver all the way up to the center A in the 50 off the break?
Because we knew that they needed to come, because they needed that point. So if we can get a quick body advantage, then A, we're going to be up on bodies again, and B, we'll be in a position to be able to shoot their body coming out of the box in about a minute. So that was the idea, you know. So we have Oliver right up the center. That was his plan. He's going to be shooting off to the Dorito side because, again, we knew they were going to take that outside, and that was the easiest way for him to shoot. Then we have me. If you want to go ahead and fast forward it a little bit. So here's our breakout. I go ahead and pause it there. I'm going to actually start coming out of your screen on frame left there, and they had a good shooting off the break. You know, they'd hit us going out to the corner.
And you had
a lot.
played them in the prelims.
Yeah. So we had already played them in a full match, and we beat them pretty convincingly. But obviously, Infamous is a lot better of a team than most of the Challengers teams. Which is
They won the first event in Dallas in the Champs Division.
Yeah, and this is the reason we're playing each other in the finals. So they had Callie on the top right corner of the screen, right about here. His job was to shoot the snake side off the break. His job was to shoot across the field and try to eliminate us either going into the snake or the snake corner, which is the spot that I was going to go to. So my plan was to.
So you wanted to get to the snake corner.
Yeah, my job is to get to the snake corner because we want to try to wind off some time. So right here you see me coming out of the blind zone.
Because you're not going to the snake corner right now.
I was going to do a delay, let Callie get set up, and then which you see, I'm in here shooting straight ahead, but Callie is up in this corner. So right here we have Callie in this little temple right here shooting across the field. Okay.
Shooting at you.
He's shooting at me. He's shooting out to this side, stopping the snake movement and all this. And we can't afford to lose a body, especially on the snake side off the break. So,
yeah, because you don't want him to even the body count.
No, we don't want him to even up the body count, so I'll just go somewhere safe. Again, we have Oliver running up the center. His shot is right into here on their Dorito side, and he actually eliminates him off the break. So we get that body advantage. We're actually playing them right now after the breakout 5-on-3. So
that's huge.
So if we go ahead and speed the game up a little bit here, you'll see Oliver up in the center. We lose our first Dorito.
And Oliver shooting D side, and then you lose your D side.
Right. Kyle makes right there, as you saw, a quick move, and on that move, I'm able to run out to the corner. So now actually we're forwarded way in the game right now. This is after Zach has come in out of the penalty box. But what you see here.
But Oliver's still in that center.
Oliver's still in that center, playing it super tight. So we've got Oliver right here in the center, and if you actually look at it, where all these other guys are, where we have all of our group of Infamous players, all three of these guys right now are all putting pressure on Oliver right here. This allows.
So he's feeling the heat right now.
So he's feeling all the heat. But what it does is, you see all these guys all shooting at Oliver right now. What that does is it allows Kyle to get some moves up on the snake. It allows me to make some moves as well. I think right now is where right when I ran into the snake 2, and I got a shot across here. And if we check out the next.
Yeah,
frame,
and you got the body then streaking out wide.
Yeah,
you
so
can
I got
see
that body.
there you are right there.
So here I go, and this is now watching it from another camera angle. You'll see Oliver in the top corner of your screen. And I'm going to get up as Infamous is filling across and then get that kill right here. So we go ahead and pause it right now. So you'll see right here, again in the top of your screen, you'll see the Infamous guy trying to make a desperation fill out to that corner because we still have Glenn alive on that Dorito side. So they needed to fill out to that way. So right now you'll see me kind of just shooting straight up at him and getting that kill. Now it's going to even it up. And it's going to actually end up being a 2-on-2. I believe Damien shoots Glenn at the same time.
Then you see Drew make his move. Drew Templeton makes his move to try to take Oliver out of that center.
But what he didn't realize, and this is where it gets a little crazy. So if we go ahead and pause it right here, what you didn't realize is actually Drew didn't shoot Oliver. Drew went up there to get that angle on him, and Damien used that commotion to make a move across to the other side of the field. And you see Damien is up here, but. Right now, what the ref is doing is checking Oliver. What the ref is doing right now is checking Oliver right now in the center. It was because his foot was actually kind of wedged under the bunker a little bit, and he was squished in there so tightly that they end up giving Oliver a penalty for that. Now,
wow.
Yeah, so that wasn't really explained in this match, and that was kind of a little bit of the controversy at the end of this point.
Yeah, because we didn't know what the deal was.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as you saw just right there, if you want to even rewind it a little bit, you can actually just see him throw that flag up there. But I used that bit of commotion to make a move on the snake side. Now, we didn't need that move.
Your move.
No. And another thing, which is kind of my fault here. Go ahead and pause it right here. It doesn't seem like it, but right now I can't see the clock at all. And on top of that, the glare from the lake and the way the sun was winding down, you can't actually see much looking inside the field. So most of my game in that corner was actually played down the tape, and you see here as well. But right now, at the corner of my eye, I see a ref make a move. I know that Drew is shooting inside, so this is when I make my move. And if you go ahead and really slow it down right here, I actually hit him with one of my first balls right in the back of the head.
Yeah,
you can see it right there, yeah. So if you go ahead and look at it right about here, you're going to see that little bit of paint spraying off the back of his head. And if you go and
And
fast
you
forward
saw
it,
that when you were making
I saw
the
that.
move.
So I need to. I saw that happen, and you see right here I could get a little airborne.
And
That
you
was-
dive
that was
in
kinda
though
fun.
because you think there's still maybe potentially guys on the
I
other
know
side. of the field.
that Damien's still alive, and I didn't see him move out of there and fill across right there, so I thought I just put him into the center. I make this move really quickly, and I need to get down as quick as possible. So right now is when I'm trying to tell the ref, hey, like, one of the three of you guys just must have seen me shooting him in the back of the head. No? Like, he shot me, but, I need to get that, I need to check that off. So again, here he is making his move up the center, and kind of knocking things over, kind of what Oliver did too, but he makes that move up here, gets into the 50s, looking for those shots. I kind of see out of the corner of my eye that the ref's running in to check Oliver. Oliver didn't actually get shot, but there it is, and there's that dive again. Again, I'm trying to watch out for Damien.
Yeah,
and
you
I-
have to
and
be
then-
careful
And then there,
with
I'm
that,
trying
yeah.
to call the penalty. I'm like, hey, look, like what's going on? Obviously shot him first. I was trying to draw that penalty. You see players do that all the time.
Yeah, well, you're trying to get the call.
Mm-hmm.
You had saw the hit. I mean, we just saw on the replay there, Todd, that he did shoot him on the run in the back of the head. Drew did spin around, and many times you will see a penalty in that situation. Yeah. Drew did get the benefit of the doubt there, and it is chaotic on the field, so he didn't get the penalty, which definitely didn't help you guys out
Sure.
because then Damien ended up hanging that flag, as you can see there on your screen, and. So kind of a frustrating turn of events, which tied it up to take it into overtime.
Yeah, and it was partially my fault for even making that move. At the end of the day, I didn't need to do that. Damien, I think, hung the flag with 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
At the same token, Oliver did get a penalty, so I would have been pulled anyway. But I saw an opportunity to make a move, and what I thought would have been a great move is just get him off the field, and then I was going to be able to just sit and wait for a one-on-one with Damien, but he would have been able to burn off a little bit of the clock there.
Yeah.
And obviously it didn't work out as well. And, it's funny, you always say, like, wow, your games are so good. Like, I can't wait for your next match against the, Infamous again. But at the same token, I'm like, man, I don't even want it to be a good game. I want us to just to win.
You want to beat him
definitively.
7-0 like
no
our Chaos
problem.
did the damage. Yeah,
they
well,
can score a couple points,
yeah.
but.
I mean, we're looking at this and, like we're sitting here slowing it down, going, second by second, move by move. Like, you can't second guess that move though.
Right.
I feel like, in your standard book of paintball plays, when A happens, then B happens, when C happens, then, make this move. I feel like you're going to make that move every time.
I would agree, because I would
feel
say
like you're going to teach your guys to make that move.
I would even say, to just a second, what you're saying, I totally agree. And not just because you're here, but I think you played that as well as it could be played, to be honest.
Thanks.
I mean, you couldn't see what was going on the Snake side. You know that Drew's gun was shifted towards Oliver. He was obviously pinching Oliver a lot. You saw the ref going in there. You never know what's going to happen when you see a running ref. Anytime you see a running ref come in, you never know what's going to happen with that, especially down on time. You know that the clock's down. You got at one point. I mean, you had the move. No one's in front of you. I think that's the move right there.
Right.
I thought you made the move.
That's definitely the move. Like, you can't second guess, how it gets called in the end. I feel like in the book of paintball moves, when you see that happen, that's the move you have to make, and you can't really second guess yourself on that.
Yeah. So, moving on, it was such an amazing game. Seriously, you have to. If you're going to watch one paintball game ever, you're going to have somebody watch a paintball game ever. That's the game to have people watch. It's a fabulous, amazingly dramatic game from start to finish, all the way through. Again, we've never ever had a game in the history of the PSP go that far in one-on-ones. They played 5 one-on-ones. It was an amazing performance. But overall, before we move on to the 4th-ranked team, Omaha Vicious, which Todd, I want to pick your brain about. Overall thoughts about the year. I mean, you guys you started out great. You had you won an event. You had an amazing start to the season, and then just kind of fizzled out towards the end. You also had to fight through a knee injury. It was just kind of a really tough last half of the season for you and for the team.
Well, and I think I've touched on it before. Is the league is played at such a high caliber now.
It's a deep league.
Our games and our tournaments even at most times are won and lost by 1 or 2 points. Like a 1-point swing here and there really does affect the outcome of the game a lot. So in Riverside, after we had that bad event in Chicago, we went on to Riverside, and with the exception of the Impact game, we lost all those other 4 matches by 1 point.
I know. It was very, very close.
And then it came to an overtime point, which almost ended up in one-on-ones again with Heat. Woodley.
That was another one of the
move.
greatest games that we saw this year was the Heat game that you guys played.
So like all those games, it's like, man, your season is either a super good season or you're like, man, you fizzled out because of 1 or 2 point swing there, and here and there, and then obviously being injured in the first match of against our Chaos in Riverside didn't help the team's morale, didn't help with a lot of, because I do play a lot of the points on the team, and
Yes.
and just having to shift all that around and have everybody kind of like keep up with that, it was definitely hurt a little bit, but we had a tough year, and at the same time I still think we have one of the best teams. I think our guys all gel really well together, and Todd knows this from playing with us for years back in the day. It's like we're a fun group of guys. Everybody on our team, because we don't have the highest budget, we can't go out and buy all the players, but everybody wants to be here, which is something that we like to pride ourselves in. Is when you play on our team, you're going to have fun, and you're going to be here. You're going to be welcomed onto our team. So. I think that, like I said, everybody wants to be here. We did have a hiccup, but even with a 12th place finish and a 9th place finish, we're still in the top 5.
Which is pretty impressive. And then also, kind of just breaking things down too, as heading into next season, you haven't lost anybody yet. You haven't picked anybody up. Mm-hmm. But I have to ask you, because you're here, do you plan on picking anybody up? I couldn't see you cutting anybody. I couldn't see you actively trying to get rid of anybody. But I don't really know.
Right.
I mean, other than talking to you guys.
Well,
so
we're never gonna really just count it out. But at the same time, we're going to allow people to practice and try out with us. So once the season is starting off with us, Oliver's going to be gone for the beginning of when we're starting to practice and whatnot. So it's going to be good to have a couple guys come in and just really keep a spark under their ass.
So who's coming in?
We don't know yet. We're gonna keep it under wraps. It would be great. We're not gonna discount the fact of not having any players come in.
I mean, I know we're still a little early too.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
we're only 2 weeks out here from when World Cup. World Cup essentially just happened, but there's been moves made.
Right.
And we'll get to the little bit more thorough explanations here in a little bit about Houston Heat cut a bunch of guys. Our Chaos is no longer. I mean, there's a lot kind of going on early this season. Damage lost guys, Impact picked up guys, but still.
Yeah, so we're not sure exactly. I mean, there's players out there I'm sure that we want. Can we afford them? Probably not. Are they going to be able to? Do they want to play with us? I hope so. But we're gonna make some phone calls to guys, and like you said, Vicious has a bunch of guys that have been let go. Heat.
Everybody.
Same thing. Everybody. Got a bunch of guys.
And real quick before we transition, I just want to say that the top 5 guys for Dynasty before we head into Vicious, because we got to move on here. The top ranked players on San Diego Dynasty for 2014 were Ryan Greenspan, ranked 13th overall, Brandon Short, 16th overall, Oliver Lang, last year's Top Gun Award winner, 19th overall, and then the always solid Glenn Takamoto and Yosh Rao finishing up the top 5 with 37th and 48th overall. And it is interesting because when you look at the points played, Ryan, you only played 129 points, but you were injured, and you guys did have to play down in the Challengers Division, which the stats don't get counted for that. So hopefully we'll get to see some more spins out of you next year, because
I hope so.
Hopefully we'll see you up in the the kill count leaders, which will be a whole nother episode of the breakdown. But let's move on to the fourth ranked team, Omaha Vicious. So Todd, I'm gonna have to send this one over to you here, as you were the coach of Omaha Vicious. And it's got to be, to me, it's a heartbreaker to have to even talk about this, is Omaha Vicious has folded as a team. They may be playing, maybe some UWLs or maybe some Canadian X-Ball League tournaments together. But as far as being a team trying to win PSP tournaments, the hardest events to win in the world, and to continue forward as a full squad, giving the grind at 100%, that ship has sailed. That story is over now, and it's just kind of sad to say. It's incredibly admirable what the Omaha Vicious crew has done since their inception. That whole divisional story was so phenomenal. All their charity work, the fact that they've had that hometown group that have been the core of the team. I mean, it's an amazing success story and also a testament to anyone that wants to do it. I mean, you can do this. If you want to be a pro paintball team, you can absolutely do it. Omaha Vicious is one of those storybook teams that was able to do that. But to have to to talk about them no longer being a team, as close as they were to winning. I mean, you guys took second at the first event. So I know that this is kind of a heartbreaker for all the Vicious fans out there, and for me as well, as being a Vicious fan and seeing their rise through the ranks and knowing that they're never going to be that team again. It's just really sad because they were so close. Well,
this may be, one of the only times that I actually get to talk about the team, for more than a couple minutes. And, the first thing I got to say is, all respect and love to Carl and Karen Bortle for everything that they did, because, over the years, all the time and money and effort and heart that they put into this team, they deserve the biggest shout out, for not only
They're paintball patrons.
for
A million
they're definitely 1,000,000% paintball patrons, but not only for all the the time, the effort, the money, that they put into Vicious as an organization, but the heart that they put into every single person that played on Vicious, as a team. Everything that those two people put into every player that ever came through the organization to make them a better person, to make them a stronger player, to make them a man in this world. Those two people deserve every bit of respect from this league, from the sport of paintball, for everything that they've done. And to touch on a couple points that Ryan just said, this is one of the toughest leagues that this is the toughest league that anybody can play in as a professional paintball player. And this year, the level of competition has stepped up and up and up and up. And for the team this year, for all 8 on our roster, 9 or 10 that weren't on our roster but that were part of the family, for all those people and everything that they did and all the hard work that they put in, as to do as well as this team did, to take 4th overall in the PSP is a huge accomplishment.
Second at the first event. It's incredibly impressive.
That's second place.
And and he was just talking about a couple 1-point victory or 1-point differences away. I mean, that was the story of your season as well too. I mean, we could have been talking about different rankings here.
That's exactly my point. The fact that we took second in the first event, definitely had an opportunity to win the first event, but to go to MAO and lose every game by 1 point, to tie damage, took second overall. To go to Chicago without enough preparation and to still almost make it into Sunday and lose a bunch of close 1-point games. To go to Riverside and be 1 point away from making the top 4. To go to World Cup, be 1 point away from making the top 4. I got to give it to everybody on my team, every single person on that roster that really gave it their all and really worked so hard that, with the competitiveness of this league, to finish 4th overall, a bunch of high caliber, high talent teams like Dynasty, Art Chaos, X Factor, Houston Heat, Infamous. My hat's off to the players on this team and all the hard work that they put in, and the organization as a whole for everything that they did to get the team to that level. So, I feel very gracious to have the opportunity to be able to coach those guys, to be part of that organization, and to spend 2 years with these guys, learning, growing, and becoming better as a person, as a teacher, as a player, as a coach, all around, to be with the Vicious organization and, to be able to be there, when they watch, everything come to an end. It's really cool. So, the other thing was, that Ryan said was just, people wanted to be there on Vicious. Vicious was a completely different organization, than I ever been a part of. And I've been a part of a lot of great organizations, from Iron Men, my first pro team, to Avalanche and the Brotherhood rock stars that those guys were, to Dynasty, to all my closest friends that I grew up playing paintball with and learning about paintball with and growing up as a person, to going to Infamous and Strange and Aftershock. But, to come to Infamous, and then have such a close bond with those guys and then come to Vicious, I mean, you got to give it to those guys, because Infamous, I never really thought that there'd be another group of guys after Dynasty that would really take me in and appreciate me, the way that the Infamous guys did with Brad, Damian, Bobby, Nikki, Brad, all those dudes, and then to come to Vicious and, with Carl and Karen, and then, Matt Sossman, Trevor Reeser, Parker Rosenthal, Zach Sherman, Brian Bortle, Shane Colby, those dudes, just really took me in, and, all those dudes bought in. They were all about Vicious paintball. And, it was really a cool thing to be a part of. And, I am so happy that I was a part of that. And, I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity that I had and, all the things that we were able to accomplish this year, because everybody bought in and everybody really cared. And, it was a heck of a year.
Well, hey, nothing lasts forever, and it's really about what you did with the time that you had. And I think that everyone on Vicious, though they never got to that pinnacle that they really wanted to, they have a lot to be proud of, and especially this year. 4th overall, like you said, ahead of all those higher, powered teams that have more money to spend, and more time to practice. The fact you guys did take fourth, that you did take a second. And, the top 5 players for Omaha Vicious this year, their final year. Matt Sossman, huge year for him, 6th overall, just killing tons of guys. Trevor Reeser, another huge success story there. He was ranked 49th overall. And then Alexander Borromeo, Zach Sherman, one of the core guys, and Nate Schrader. Those are the top 5 players. So our hats off, and we bid Omaha Vicious adieu as one of the best stories that I've ever heard in the paintball game. And we hope that they have, hopefully they'll come back. I mean, it's hard to stay away from the game, but that epic story that they did put down is now the final chapter has been written. So we bid our fondest farewell to the Omaha Vicious crew. So moving on to the third-ranked team, another long-standing team is the Los Angeles Ironmen, and that was a team that they never played in a relegation game. They never played down. They never went down to the Challengers division. They have a younger group of guys, and they just kept getting better and better and better. Ryan, you guys have played the Ironmen for years. What did you think about their revamped lineup this season?
Hats off to them as well. Like you said, they have a bunch of younger players, and a lot of people kind of didn't really discount them, but wasn't really betting on them to do incredibly well, because anytime you have to rebuild a team, it takes a lot of hard work. And they continue to kind of impress a lot of players by Shane doing an amazing job by not only playing but also coaching. And it's not like he was just playing some of the points. It was like he was playing important points. And Alex Goldman and Marcelo, obviously now the veterans on the team, and Paxton, and just really leading a bunch of those guys and the younger guys and giving them confidence. Because we did practice them a couple times, and it's great to see younger guys being able to play at such a high level.
Yeah. And Todd, the top 5 guys for them, Marcelo Margot, Brandon Cornell, what an amazing breakout season for him. Marcelo, for the 3rd year in a row, has finished 2nd in the Top Gun Award running. So our condolences to Marcelo for taking another 2nd place. I know he's fuming at that. He wants to get that number 1 spot. Cornell was 32nd, Alex Goldman 39th, Alex Rodriguez, another one of those younger standouts on that team, 50th, and then Jason Vitalich actually ended up in the top 5. He only played the last 2 events, but he did well enough in his limited spins to make the top 5 for their team.
Well, I think, once again, Ryan makes a good point. You really got to give it to the Ironmen for finishing 3rd overall. The fact that they didn't play in a relegation game, the fact that people weren't really betting on them to win events. Everybody knew that they had a good team, but they were also building a lot of younger talent. And I really feel like they did a good job of utilizing their leaders, their guys, like their top guys, and then really, teaching their younger guys to step up and be good, and they had a really above average season, which allowed them to be 3rd by never playing in a relegation game, by always finishing, in that middle of the pack spot. But if you watched all season, that they beat a lot of good teams, and they lost a lot of really close games that they were in control of.
Threw away a lot of leads.
Exactly. Threw away a ton of leads. So, just as how, I can look at Vicious and be like, hey, we had a great year, but we were just on the cusp. Same thing with the LA Ironmen, because the LA Ironmen, they really had an opportunity to be great this year. But, if this was a different team in a different year, you may look different. But because it was a rebuild type team, for them to finish 3rd, that's a heck of an accomplishment, because they finished behind the number 2 team, Tampa Bay Damage. And Tampa Bay Damage is a team that you expect to be number 1, a team that you expect to see at the top, you expect to see in the finals, you expect to see in the top 4 every event. And Tampa Bay Damage, looking at them and their all-star roster that they have every single year, Tampa Bay Damage to finish 2nd is also a pretty good accomplishment for them, but they lost out to a really solid Edmonton Impact team. But Tampa Bay Damage, every single event, they were there, they were competing, they were a top-tier team. They had an opportunity to win a lot of events this year.
Well, I think that, Todd, to kind of speak to what you're saying too, to me, I saw the fire from Damage, and maybe obviously you have to scout Damage every single event because you may be playing them in Sunday. But when they came into that first event and had to play in that relegation game against Houston Heat, which came down to the last point, and if Jason Edwards didn't show up and shoot 5 guys in that last point, he got a 5-pack in that particular point to keep Damage in the Champions Division, we might have had a way different year. That sent Heat down at the very outset of the year, and that after that tournament, after that kind of stumble that we saw Tampa Bay Damage have by having to play in that relegation game, I kind of saw a renewed fire from Tampa Bay Damage to get back in and win a tournament, particularly after the midpoint of the year. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing, but I mean, the Tampa Bay Damage that we saw at West Coast Open and at the World Cup, I mean, yeah, they got mashed on by our Chaos in that final game, 7-0, but still, it did seem like they were very hungry to win a tournament. And also, another news that in case you haven't heard, Tampa Bay Damage took some hits to their lineup. They, Chad Bougier, and who's kind of been one of their best attackers on the D side, played more of a utility role as an attacker this year up the center a lot. They kind of Kevin Brett, their other coach, put him a lot of different places, and they also lost one of their main snake guys, Keith Brown. So they are now after having a year where they didn't win a tournament. The last event they won was West Coast Open in 2013. And then now they're losing two of their solid guys. So, but we all know they go out and get players. I mean, they got Dalton from your team last year. So,
right.
Look for Damage to be making moves here to try to bolster their lineup. But they don't know, with Vicious folding and a lot of crazy things going on. And, Joey Blute and the management of that team still kind of just biding their time to figure out what they want to do.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, they do have a decent budget. And so that could have freed up a little bit of salary cap space by losing those two guys. And you can definitely look for them to replace an attacker on both sides of the field, because that's now what they're in the market for, and that's what they need. If they're going to keep Dalton, who knows? I don't know if he can sign a multi-year contract or not. But if they lose him, or obviously if he resigns, then they're going to have the Dorito side just fine.
Well, tell me you guys aren't still going at Dalton. I mean, you guys have been going back at Dalton the entire time.
We just text him and like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
He'll just send us messages with picture messages with stacks of cash, and he's like, I'm doing great, But other than that, we'll text and say like, hey, what's going on? But we obviously can't compete with.
You can't give him the offer the Damage is offering.
Yeah, and he knows that, we know that, they know that. So depending on what Damage has to offer, they'll probably go for a couple other guys. I know that they were interested in a couple players last year that they didn't get.
Yeah.
Which they may try to go for again. Who knows?
Well, I mean, maybe some of the guys from Omaha Vicious. Vicious has some talent on that team.
Or even some of the Heat guys.
I'm a new sports agent now. I can negotiate these deals.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to happen with that? So before we sign off, let's head into the #1 team of 2014, and what a story it was. Edmonton Impact played flat out amazing all year long. The most consistent team in paintball. They went to Europe in the Millennium Series. They won 3 out of 4 events there. Did amazing here as well in the hardest league of the world. They finally won a tournament in the PSB. It had been so long. They'd taken so many second places, but they won Chicago, which is arguably the second hardest event to win after the World Cup. Took third at the World Cup. They took second at the West Coast Open. So we're talking about first, a second, and a third in the last 3 events. Combine that with the 6th that they took at the first event. That's a serious championship. But what a redemptive moment for Edmonton Impact. I mean, it is an amazing season. They really dominated this year, and definitely the most consistent team out there right now. And a real solid lineup. And when you look at their top 5, their #1 guy is Zach Yakimek. Zach Yakimek played the best year of his career this season. And then Dave Baines, Justin Rabakoff, Rainey Stanzik, and Joshua Met. All 5 of those guys are from 31 and up. They are, I mean, that's and incredibly consistent across the board. When you look at their points played and their kills and their G rating, none of those guys were top of any of those except for points played. Justin Rabakoff played more points than anybody this year, but still, like they just played such consistent ball, and across the board, what a phenomenal lineup.
Yeah, and if you look at it, and it doesn't, it makes sense. But if you look, like you said, everybody's 30th and below, or above, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the other teams, their top 5 guys, Ironman have Marcelo got second, but then there's a 60th, a 50, a 40. So same with our team. We have a huge spread. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they're all clustered pretty close together and in a good standing shows that the fact that their top 5 guys obviously helped.
Well, right, and Todd, you could probably second this, but we've always said, I mean, it's one of those paintball maxims. It's like, look, I would rather have 5, 6, 7, give me like 7 or 8 guys that will play at a 7 or 8 every single game than a guy that plays at a 10 and a 2, 10 one game, 2 the next game. You don't know what you're going to get on. Maybe one game he goes out and shoots everyone, the next game he's getting blown to bits. Impact consistently across the board, and not even just their top 5. When you go down to their 6th and their 7th guy, Nick Laval and Justin Cornell, Nick Laval didn't get a ton of spins, only played 70 points this year. Justin Cornell played 172 points this year, but they both finished 46 and 47. So still, I mean, even down into the depths of their roster as far as how they placed overall, Justin Cornell was arguably the best snake player at the World Cup.
My point exactly, and not just at the World Cup, because Zach Yakimek, I mean, he obviously stepped up for his team, because when it comes down to stats, it's the overall rating, right? And Zach Yakimek finished 14th overall. He played 174 points, got 110 kills. His G rating was .63. Justin Cornell finished 47th overall, but he also played 172 points and 122 kills with a .71 G rating. If you ask me, he was the best snake player in the game this year, okay? Because if you look at history, the teams that finish number 1 usually have the best snake player in the game, okay? And Edmonton Impact, they finished number 1. Justin Cornell, if you want to argue with me who's the best snake player in the game, this year was Justin Cornell, 100% hands down.
Well, I like to argue, but also I got to say, not to argue that. I'm not going to argue that point at all, because I think Justin Cornell kind of put a show on at the World Cup and other tournaments as well. But, Justin Rabikov with his 156 kills, I mean, that is a massive kill count number. And he had over 30 kills more than Justin Cornell did. So when you have the versatility of a Justin Rabikov, you can play him in the snake, you can play him on the D side, you can play him up the center, and the guy's getting in there, killing 156 guys in a season. I mean,
it's nice to have a Justin Cornell, because then you can put a Justin Rabikov wherever you want.
That's very true, because
wherever you want.
And that's a problem, because say you got a Ryan Greenspan, on Dynasty, Ryan has to play.
We got one of those.
Yeah, I know, but that's the problem is that so it's like, okay, well, a lot of times you don't get to play in the spots you necessarily want to play, because you have to play the spot that maybe other guys can't play.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that you and I have spoken about before, and it's it is tough, but yeah, having like you were saying, Todd, Justin in that snake. And getting the amount of kills, and a lot of people, just so like being 47th isn't really like an accurate ranking, because if you look at a snake player, he's the guy that's running the most. So he's going to be the most.
He's going to get shot on the break a lot.
Shot off the break a lot. He's the one that everybody's keying up on, because you don't want anybody in the snake, and he's dying a lot.
Well, hey, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll do a snake. We'll have a breakdown where we break down all the best snake players. But overall, because overall ranking, there's a lot that plays into that.
Sure.
Yes.
But historically speaking, other than maybe Marcelo, the year he played the one for in 2012, Marcelo played the one on the D side for Moscow Red Legion. We haven't really seen, and then Oliver last year. But Oliver again is another one of those guys that plays a lot of different positions. But you don't really see ones on the snake side in the running for the Top Gun title, because they die too often. You're rolling the dice with those guys, man.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing. So I mean, that's going to kill their G rating a little bit too, because with the G rating, that's how many kills you get per point. So Justin Cornell's G rating was .71, which is pretty good for a guy that you're going to be rolling the dice with, and he's going to get you off the break a decent amount. So it's just one of those things. But at the end of the day, man, again, I really can't wait to see what Edmonton Impact is, what the package they're going to bring to bear here on the league in 2015, because, my God, they just picked up Chad Bougier and Keith Brown, which gives them a very much more versatile look than they had before, because now to help Joshua Met over on that D side, they're going to be really hard to scout, because you don't really know exactly where they're going to put their guys, because now you have another versatile weapon in Chad Bougier. You have another solid snake guy that's going to let JC be able to rest when he needs to rest. And not only that, but they cut Danny Park. So Danny Park, even though I love Danny Park, and Danny Park I believe was an up-and-coming guy, but come on now, I mean, Keith Brown has proved himself a lot more than Danny Park has in this league. So that's going to make them even stronger for next season. So the series champs, as soon as the World Cup ended, went out and immediately sealed the deal with 2, stars, and from one of their huge, one of their huge rivals.
From the number 2 team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
took away two big weapons from them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like. That's a huge play in the offseason is you're already strengthening your team and weakening the top 2 teams.
Yeah, which is to my point that Tampa Bay Damage, as competitive as this league is, and as close as they were all season, a championship caliber team like they were, to not be able to win an event this year, to the other teams in this league that finished how we finished, Edmonton Impact to take 2 of their players, is going to be a tough league next year.
It's going to be, at the top level, it's going to be insane. And also, this is going to put a fire under Damage. I can't wait to see what sort of off-seasons they pick up. We don't know what off-season pickups they got yet, but the thing is that when you look at blow for Edmonton Impact and Tampa Bay Damage, heading into World Cup, Impact and Damage have played 4 times. and Impact had won all 4 of those engagements. So it's going to be, it's just, I think that's a really cool rivalry that the fans are going to enjoy watching next year when those teams end up throwing down, possibly on Sunday. It's probably going to happen. But hey, it's so that's number 1 through 5 here in the PSP for 2014. Thank you guys for tuning into the breakdown. Again, remember all the games are going to be up on demand on the YouTube channel. So make sure to spread around, man. We always say preach the paintball gospel because earlier you were talking about how vicious you had seen a lot of young men, a lot of boys grow into men through that trials and tribulations of the whole Vicious franchise and their crazy story and awesome story that they had. That's what I'm talking about saying preach the paintball gospel. That's what's possible. It's such an amazing thing to do, and it really gives you that rite of passage that's lacking in the modern world. And also, thank you guys for supporting us all season long, and thank you for your continued support, man. We're trying to do everything we possibly can over here, and it's all thanks to you guys, and it's all for you guys. So again, it's our hats off to all the supporters out there this whole season. So thank you guys for tuning into the breakdown, and we'll see you guys next episode.
In 2006, Raza Design set out to create a new standard for custom paintball jerseys. No longer were a player's options limited to just blue, red, or yellow. Raza redefined art in paintball. Raza brought people a freedom of expression, options, and personality. Since 2008, Raza Design has been producing the most professionally created, performance-minded, design-enhanced, art-forward jerseys to play in. Whether you are a weekend warrior or a committed professional, everyone is welcome to enjoy our products. There are massive opportunities, both for the sport of paintball and for your business. If we are successful in taking our sport to another level, unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better forever.